Uthman, according to Sahih al-Bukhari, clearly burnt manuscripts, whether fragmentary or complete, that predates Uthmanic recension. That being the case, you're only left with two choices. One, either Sahih al-Bukhari is not Sahih anymore, it is Da'if, and it only belongs to the bin, not worthy of getting Islamic history from. Either that is the conclusion, or the conclusion is Uthman thought he was a caliph burning things down, but really no one really cared. Yourself, are you Muslim? Do you believe in God? Which God is it? How about you? Do you believe in God? Of course, yes. Okay, so tell me, what religion are you from? Muslim, okay. Please look at these 4 pages. This. These 4 pages tell us that all that you have been told about the Quran is just fake. Have you heard about this guy called Uthman? Yeah. Have you heard that Uthman compiled the first standardized text of the Quran and burnt every other manuscript? Have you heard of that? No? Okay, I'm telling you this now. It's from, if you want reference, I can tell you the reference from Sahih al-Bukhari. But the problem is, Islamic history tells you, what is supposedly Islamic history tells you that the first Quran that we are the earliest of Quran that we are supposed to find is from 652 AD. You know, 652. Yes. Anno Domini, after Jesus Christ, after the Lord. Unfortunately though, these 2 folios, these 4 pages, I have a copy of, it's a printout of course. The original folios, 2 folios are in Birmingham. These 2 folios predate that. Who do you think Quran came from? But through whom? You know what the story is? These 4 pages, more likely than not, comes from before Muhammad started his ministry. You know when Muhammad lived? When did he start his ministry?
1,400 years.
Yes, so in our calendar here we say 610 AD, Anno Domini 610. But these 4 pages date to, more likely than not, dates to a period before 607 AD. More likely than not. In other words, greater than 50% chance that these 4 pages come from before 607 AD. What is the problem? Do you see a problem with that?
What's the evidence?
Well, the evidence is radiocarbon dating that has been done in the UK. You know, these are called this is called Birmingham manuscript. Have you heard of the term Birmingham manuscript? This is the earliest Quranic fragment we have in our possession today. Earliest. It's in Birmingham, not far from here. Are you visiting the UK or are you living? Do you live here? You're visiting. How long are you here?
1 week.
1 more week? 1 more?
No, 1 week.
Overall. If you have time, please check this up.
I'll check.
In Birmingham. Comes from, more likely than not, comes from before the time of Muhammad's ministry. Which is a huge problem. Because you would like to think Quran came through Muhammad. But if you have Quran, what's that? That's what you are led to believe. That's what you've been told. How do you know it's true?
Of course, how it came before.
Well, I don't know. You tell me. These 4 pages.
Can you read it?
This is in what language?
Arabic.
This is in Arabic?
Yeah.
Let me read.
Yeah.
Arabic. I speak Arabic.
Yeah, sure.
Where's the first page? Allah. Sino?
Can you read?
It's not clear.
Exactly. What's not clear?
The writing.
The writing is not clear.
But have you read the Quran in your life?
Yes.
You know Quran reasonably well in your life?
Yes.
But yet you can't read this.
No, not read. The handwriting.
I know.
Yes.
Which is a huge problem, isn't it?
Why?
Well, the problem is, what do you see lacking in this Arabic text?
Not lacking. There is nothing lacking. But my friend, see this here? I cannot read what is this one.
No, please read what is here.
Okay.
Please read what's there.
This word, it's not. It can be 3 words.
Exactly. Good, well done. So which one is that, you think?
This is not clear. From where did you?
Exactly.
From where you get this?
This is the earliest Quranic manuscript we have in our possession.
You have in your country, but not in my country or in in our region.
Birmingham,
Why is the first transcript of Quran? It's not in the Arab world or in Saudi Arabia.
No,
Why
one
is it in Birmingham?
One second. This is where you need to know the history. What's your name?
My name is Muhammad.
Muhammad, what's your name?
Ahmed.
Muhammad Ahmed. I'm going to give you some very important information from history. This is today called Birmingham manuscript. But clearly, it wasn't written in Birmingham when it was written. You know where this was? In terms of the Arabic Peninsula, this comes from Yemen. This comes from Yemen. This comes from a mosque. Sorry, this actually was in the mosque Fustat. You know the mosque Fustat, where you have Fustat. I don't know how you pronounce that in. I think it's in Egypt actually. The Fustat manuscript. One second. It's the name given to this is. Let me get that detail for you. But actually, this is also called the Fustat manuscript. Yeah, Fustat. Yeah. This comes from a mosque in Fustat.
He knows.
Who knows? But he's running away.
No, Abud.
Please bring him here. Let's get details of the Birmingham manuscript here.
شنو هاي برمجة؟
شنو اول مره اسمع عنه. هاي يقول لك نطلع نمشي.
Where
Yes, thank you, my friend.
yes.
For the boy. It's wrong.
No, wait, excuse me. What are you doing? You're going somewhere. Why are you going? So Naz, you please tell me.
I just got here, but
Yeah, sure. But good to see you, Mohammed. Good to see you, Ahmed. Please join in. Naz is trying to save you. So the Birmingham manuscript, Naz, what is your comment on the fact that it comes from more likely than not before the time of Muhammad's beginning of ministry?
So there's no Quranic scholar that says it comes before the time of the
There's no Quranic scholar.
Yeah.
What do you mean by no Quranic scholar?
So anyone from like Oxford or
Only what?
anyone from Oxford University or Cambridge
Yeah.
or any of the Western institutions, or even in the Middle East, none of them say that it's before the time of the Prophet.
No.
Someone with a PhD in Islamic studies.
Who? Sorry, come again?
Someone with a PhD in Islamic studies.
I don't know what you're talking about right now.
Quranic studies.
Naz, I think you're misunderstanding
Do you
what
know
I'm
a
saying.
scholar is?
No.
So you know, like you have biblical scholars. Believe it or not, this is the Quranic scholars.
Okay.
So there's no Quranic scholar that says that
Okay.
Birmingham manuscript before.
That's simply wrong.
Okay, so tell me.
Simply wrong.
Tell me which scholars.
Point number one, the dating comes from a scientific method.
Known as radio.
Scientific method called radiocarbon dating. As a matter of fact, Mansoor's website, Islamic Awareness, argues exactly for the date that has been given for this. So I am in agreement with Mansoor on this. So my point simply is, for doing radiocarbon dating, no, let me finish. For doing radiocarbon dating, you don't have to be an Islamic scholar. You need to be a science scholar. Radiocarbon dating in Cambridge, done in Cambridge, gives us the dates precisely. 94 plus percentage confidence interval. The date is.
Can give you a range. But
Yeah.
it can tell you actually when the text was first used.
Okay.
So like it gives you like a range.
Like what range?
So anywhere between that period.
Like what
the
range?
text could
Are you
actually-
aware of what range that is?
So it could be roughly 100 years.
No. But do you know what range they give?
With regards to the Birmingham manuscript.
Yeah. No. What kind of range that is? When they say it's a range, do you know what science they follow? Do you know about that?
It's an approximation.
It's not an
With
approximation.
regards to the material that's used.
Yeah, but what science is followed to give a range?
Specific dates.
Please listen to my question. Do you know what science is followed to give a range?
Okay, you tell me.
Well, okay, that's a good comment. It comes from mathematics. It's based on the understanding of probability and statistics. It is based on what is called a normal curve. A bell curve, it's based on what is called a bell curve probability distribution. In a bell curve probability distribution, not every point has the same probability. No. So the range comes under what is known as a bell curve. I mean, of course, it will be a bit complex for me to explain to you the details of how probability distributions work. But what I can tell you is that I have a curve given to me. When scientists tell me the range is 565 AD to 638 or 35, I can't remember the exact end date, AD, when they give me that, maybe 45, I can't remember the exact end date, when they give me the range and when they tell me this is a normal distribution, I know how to use that to come up with probabilities for all sorts of different periods. And that is where I am going with my normal distribution.
Wouldn't the probability then be separate from as to when the manuscript itself was produced? So, like in terms of determining as to when the text was written.
So the determination.
Would be separate
No, it's the same thing.
itself.
It's the same thing. The determination
So
given.
you would use like the ink as well as
No,
the
Naz,
script.
before you go to the ink, I'll
or
clarify.
orthography.
Before you go to the ink, I'll clarify this. This is very important. My challenge still is more likely than not, this manuscript has been dated to the year
the time of the
before
Prophet.
607 AD, 606.5 AD.
So in
How
terms
did I-
of the
how did I come
problem
up-
dating of the manuscript when it was produced, I don't have a problem with it being produced before the time of the Prophet.
Before the time of Muhammad beginning his ministry?
Like in terms of the paper that's being used, or the manuscript or the vellum that's used, I don't have a problem it being produced before the time of the Prophet. But it doesn't mean that the text itself was produced before the time of the Prophet.
Okay, so the first in the Arabic, in Hijazi.
So just take for example the folder, you've got lots of paper on it, but the paper itself could have been produced decades before when you used it to print this information.
Naz, you've given a wonderful point there, and this is what I was trying to explain to another gentleman, I can't remember who, maybe half an hour ago. Wonderful example, but stick to the details of the example. Today, for example, the paper that I printed this on, I don't know when the paper was produced, maybe 5 years ago,
But
maybe
it was
5 months
obviously
ago.
produced before the content that's on the paper. The paper was obviously produced before the content.
But having said that, can we please move a little bit there?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, let's move a little bit here. But having said that, what you need to appreciate is that today, paper production is heavily commercialized. Heavily commercialized. There is a supply and there is demand. They are not necessarily tightly connected. For example, the paper manufacturers churn out paper because they know at some stage it's going to be sold. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case in the Arabic Peninsula. In the Arabic Peninsula, as you might appreciate, nothing was written. Nothing was written.
I mean, like it's an oral culture.
There is no, anyone would tell you that the first written book was the Quran. So nothing was
Sorry,
produced.
what? Sorry? The Torah.
The Quran in Arabic Peninsula. So in terms of, no one was sitting there producing vellum or parchment well before the text was written to it. No one was doing that. So what we normally would expect, and this is why This is why no one in the world, when they are dating parchments, parchments would even argue what the date for the ink was. Irrelevant. Because they know, of course, give or take, it might be 6 months later, 2 months later, 1 month later, maybe even a year later. But they are not.
Argument is that the ink itself was put on paper before the time of the Prophet. Is that your argument?
No. My argument is, as we understand history, as we understand the prevailing practices of that period, we can clearly say the text would have been written soonish after the parchment was prepared. Soonish. Give or take even a year.
You accept parchments are reused as well because
this
paper
wasn't reused.
Wasn't readily
This wasn't
available
reused.
and recycled.
This wasn't a palimpsest. This wasn't reused.
Okay. According to who?
Well, Birmingham manuscript is not a palimpsest, according to knowledge that anyone, you can go check it up yourself.
Does it necessarily have to be a
what's that?
Does it have to necessarily be a palimpsest for it to be renewed?
Palimpsest, yeah. The one where you reuse, the one where you have at least 2 layers of text is what is called a palimpsest.
But is that the only recyclable material that could be used, or could there be like vellum? Could that be recycled as well?
No, vellum is just parchment. Vellum is just high quality parchment.
Sure, but could that be recycled as well or renewed?
Yeah.
Again and again.
My point applies in both cases. I don't know what you're trying to say. If your point is perhaps the parchment was produced well earlier and was used for something else, and later on used for Quran, my simple point
I'm
is
open to that possibility.
my simple point is that is rejected because this we know, Birmingham manuscript we know is not a palimpsest. Not a palimpsest.
But does it have to
It
be a
wasn't.
palimpsest?
Of course, yes. Of course, yes.
According to who?
Well, let me put it this way.
Okay.
Yeah, now you are trying to find
Because no one dates it before the time of the Prophet.
Well, no. Now going to the second point you were trying. Going to the second point that you were trying to make earlier.
So you've heard of Daniel Brubaker.
This is not Daniel Brubaker's
So
area.
Brubaker, does he date it before the time?
But the Birmingham manuscript.
Yeah.
Birmingham manuscript has been dated by the lab in Cambridge,
So when
and
did
has
they
been and has been under the supervision in terms of ownership in Mingana. In Birmingham as part of Mingana collections.
Okay.
Which is handled by a person, a Muslim, Alba Fedeli, PhD. This was a PhD area of study, Alba Fedeli. So she is fine, and she is fine with the date of what has been given, and she even goes on to suggest, along with the head of the department that houses the manuscript, goes on to suggest that this is perhaps a manuscript that was handled by one of Muhammad's companions. They were quite happy with that.
Yeah.
In other words, the problem is before the time of Uthman. That's what they are saying, based on the normal curve. But what I am saying is, more likely than not, comes from before 610 AD, before Muhammad. So Quran,
So
at least this portion of the
you say
Quran
that,
is
and who
not
else
from Muhammad.
says that?
What's that?
Who else says the same thing that you say, that it comes before
That's the
610?
result that we have, the scientific result.
Yeah, but then how comes no one else is coming to the same conclusion as you? Because you're looking at the same data, but the difference is you're not a Quranic scholar, whereas they are, and they're not coming to the same conclusion.
Nas,
It's
you're not
basically,
understanding.
It's the Birmingham
You-
manuscript before the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him.
No. I'm saying,
It's from the time of the Prophet. The overwhelming consensus of the experts is the majority view in the West, amongst secular historians of the Quran, is that the Birmingham manuscript and the Quran we have today comes from the time of the Prophet himself. And that's not really discussed anymore. I know there are a minority who quibble about it. This is true, but generally speaking, this is accepted now in Western academia. Yes, you will find individual scholars who dissent from that. Maybe you found someone, but this is a very marginal view, and it's not really mainstream anymore.
no, not that's so. Okay, now that we have Paul also.
I've interviewed a professor from Birmingham University who's an expert on this. He's
Which one?
actually,
Which one is that?
Professor Thomas. I forget his first name. You can-
David Thomas.
I can't can't remember his first name.
Is that
But he-
Haytham Siddiq?
It's on my channel.
That's fine,
And,
but
he's an expert. He's possibly even a Christian, and he says this. So it's not just my opinion.
That's fine. That's fine. Now I'm going to. That's fine. That's fine. I'm going to ask you both. These are very important questions.
I'm not involved in this.
No. You just came in. Please
I'm not
answer this.
taking over. I don't want to be accused of taking
No,
over.
that's fine. But he needs your help, Paul. Please answer this. I'm going to.
Nazim is much more experienced and wonderful.
In 2 minutes, I'm going to make some important points, and I'd like you to respond. The points are: more likely than not comes before Muhammad started his ministry. More likely than not. In other words, greater than 50% chance the manuscript comes from before 610 AD, 606.5 AD, 606.5 AD. More than 50% chance. Point number one. Before
50%.
more than 50% chance, more likely than not. Second point, in any case, around 95% chance that it predates Uthman's recension. Uthman's recension in AD 650.
Yeah.
Uthmanic recension.
I think it's
the
probable
problem.
because of the diacritical.
The challenge I'm going to pose to you today is this: given the dates, either Sahih al-Bukhari is wrong. It's not Sahih anymore. It is Daif.
What's the date that Sahih Bukhari gives?
Sahih al-Bukhari tells us that all manuscripts before the time of Uthmanic recension were burnt. That is the detail at Sahih al-Bukhari. Let me finish. Yeah, I can.
No, I'm not going to let you finish. Can you actually quote your evidence? Because you're just making claims at the moment.
Yeah, I'm.
We actually want to see
Let's
the
read.
evidence. Can you read it out, please? By the way, the Quran actually mentions Muhammad by name in several places. So obviously it comes from the time of Muhammad because it mentions him by name. It's impossible it should come from before Muhammad because the existence of Muhammad is very well attested historically in multiple sources, and the Quran mentions him by name. So clearly, at least it has to be from the time of Muhammad. It can't predate him. That's impossible.
Unless Muhammad is a figment of imagination, which is what I'm contending for at the moment. This is no. Muhammad, every evidence that we have so far points to the fact that I'm going to quote a few.
I'm going to say.
No. In the meantime, I'm going to read to you right now. Sahih al-Bukhari. No. Moon landing. No. Muhammad.
You're interrupting me. You're talking over me, by the way. Can you not talk over me?
Because I heard you before.
I'm talking over us.
I know. I heard you before. I'd like you to give me a hearing. Please give me a hearing.
We're asking you for the evidence for your
I'm going to read.
So whilst you're looking for it.
No, I'm going to read right now.
Look, go ahead.
I'm going to read right now.
ahead.
Sahih al-Bukhari 4987 clearly says, Hudayfa bin, I can read the entire thing if you want, but if I can read the last statement.
If you read the entire thing,
Uthman returned.
Not your cherry-picked excerpts.
Okay, let's read the entire
Thank
thing.
you.
Hudayfa bin al-Yaman came to Uthman at the time when the people of Sham and the people of Iraq were waging war to conquer Armenia and Azerbaijan. Hudayfa was afraid of their differences in the recitation of the Quran. So he said to Uthman, O chief of the believers, save this nation before they differ about the book, as Jews and the Christians did before. So Uthman sent a message to Hafsa saying, send us the manuscripts of the Quran so that we may compile the Quranic materials in perfect copies and return the manuscripts to you. Hafsa sent it to Uthman. Uthman then ordered Zayd bin Thabit, Abdullah bin Zubair, Said bin Al-As, and three Qurayshi men. In case you disagree with Zayd bin Thabit on any point in the Quran, then write it in the dialect of the Quraysh. The Quran was revealed in their tongue. Uthman returned the original manuscripts to Hafsa. Uthman sent to every Muslim province one copy of what they had copied and ordered that all other Quranic materials, whether written in fragmentary manuscripts or whole copies, be burnt. So my challenge. Let me finish my present argument here. No. Give me a hearing. No.
And the actual reality.
You've distorted the meaning of that hadith. That's why I
Give me a hearing. Please.
You're misrepresenting.
I'm asking you to listen to me first.
I am. We have listened to it.
You haven't. I haven't finished. I haven't finished. So, Sahih al-Bukhari. No.
Yes.
Sahih al-Bukhari clearly says that every manuscript, whether fragmentary or whole, were burnt.
No, it doesn't.
Everything.
It doesn't say that.
Let me finish. Let me please finish. Let me please finish. Let me please finish.
Will you let us respond?
No, I haven't finished yet. You can't respond to an argument which I haven't completed yet.
But you're misrepresenting.
No.
Yes,
Please
yes,
listen to me
yes, yes.
first, and then you can go on. So the point is this: the hadith I just
should we
read to
debate
you,
these people?
the
Because
hadith,
they're lying.
the hadith.
I don't know why
This
we
is where you can't hear. You can't hear, Paul, and I've seen this multiple times. I'm making a simple argument here.
But you're lying.
Sahih al-Bukhari,
You're
which is
making
one of 6 canonical hadith sources that you have, which is Sahih in your view, tells us clearly every Quranic material.
It doesn't.
Can you?
That was the order, but the actual reality.
Can you listen to my entire argument
keep on
before you
repeating
respond?
yourself.
Can you listen at all? Are you afraid?
You're repeating yourself.
Are you afraid? I am repeating myself because you're not letting me finish my second
You're
half.
lying.
Are you afraid of listening to my second half?
Can you respond?
No, I can't respond because I haven't finished my previous
We don't
point.
get to your point. You keep on repeating the same thing.
Because you
over
cut
and
me
over.
over time and time again. Please wait and I would finish and then you can
Oh,
respond.
Nazem, why do we bother?
Why you bother? Because you
Why do we
haven't
bother?
you haven't got an answer and therefore you would
let us
not
speak.
let
You
me
would not
finish.
let us speak.
So Uthman, according to Sahih al-Bukhari, clearly burnt manuscripts, whether fragmentary or complete, that predates Uthmanic recension. So that being the case, you're only left. No, let me finish and then you can respond. That being the case, you're only left with 2 choices. One, either Sahih al-Bukhari is not Sahih anymore, it is Daif, and it only belongs to the bin, not worthy of getting Islamic history from. Either that is the conclusion, where Sahih al-Bukhari is wrong, bin him, or the conclusion is Uthman thought he was a caliph burning things down, but really no one really cared. People who had manuscripts.
Are you finished?
There's also a
Clearly
third
not.
option
You
as
can
well.
hear me
Can you
speak.
respond?
Which
You've been
is
going on
your
for 10
wrong.
minutes now. Can you
That's
respond?
not the case.
Let us respond.
So either Sahih al-Bukhari is
We
Daif,
understand that. We understand.
or Uthman wasn't a caliph who had power and there weren't Muslims who were in obedience in Hijazi at that
Now let us
time.
respond.
Only one of 2 options.
Or
Please
it doesn't
respond.
say that as
There
the
are
third
3
option.
options. There are 3 options. Nazem.
The third option is that it doesn't say what he said. So there's a difference between like Usman ordering something and what the reality on the ground is. And also that particular narration mentions Hafsa's copy. So Hafsa's copy wasn't destroyed. Like he sent the copy back to be with Hafsa. So even the Birmingham
Which
manuscript.
copy was sent back to Hafsa?
So
What are you talking
if
about?
you read even before he ordered like all manuscripts be burned, it mentions the Hafsa copy was sent back to her.
Earlier in that hadith.
So here, the Jews and Christians did before. So Usman sent a message to Hafsa saying, send us a manuscript of the Quran so that we may compile the Quranic material in perfect copies and return the manuscript to you. So that copy which they used to compile the Quran, once they've used it, they send it back to Hafsa. So the Birmingham manuscript that you're saying that is before Usman's time, it's possible it could have been that copy or part of that Hafsa's copy that was used to.
So you think
But also, Usman ordering manuscripts to be burned, there's a difference between a commandment and the actual reality on the ground as well.
would you?
It's okay. Can I let me?
No. One of you. I thought you wanted him to speak. Are you going to
Should
speak?
also have a-
Who is going to argue with me? You or him?
We're not arguing, but we're having a dialogue.
Who? But I'd like to.
Speak. Let me speak.
No, just one.
No,
One.
two. There's two.
No. One of you, please.
Well, I'm going to speak anyway because you're going to.
No. Okay, please.
Now,
Now, is that going to be Paul who is going to represent you, right?
Okay. Cool.
So I just want to reiterate what Nazem said. You completely misrepresented the content of that hadith. You said that all
This isn't my-
hadith clearly
oh,
states
okay,
that
sorry.
all copies were completely destroyed, and that's what the hadith states. That's why I got you to read it out, because I knew that hadith did not state what you have claimed. You have misrepresented that hadith. You had imposed your own views on the hadith and been false to the facts. So your false dichotomy doesn't exist. There's a third alternative, which is the truth of what the hadith says. maybe there were one or two manuscripts that escaped destruction. That's perfectly possible in that period of time, in that world, in the remote outreaches. Maybe some were destroyed. And indeed, that is almost certainly the case. There are manuscripts, like the Sada manuscript, which quite possibly predate the Uthmanic manuscript. And that's perfectly fine. There's no threat here to Islam. But because you are a Christian missionary, your motivation as a Christian is to discredit Islam, not to be objective and scholarly and fair to the historical evidence. And we've seen the way you've handled the evidence here in your own citation of Bukhari Hadith. It's unfair and a distortion. And I know this is Speaker's Corner.
No, that's fine. That's
even
fine.
at Speaker's Corner,
How long are you going to take?
even at Speaker's Corner, we should try and be fair. And with respect, sir, you're not fair with the evidence.
All right, good. Thank you. Are you done?
No.
I didn't know you were
No,
talking.
well, he took his time.
Why-
You take
why
your
are you
time.
timing
So,
us?
well, because you just go on. You're not going to stop
Like
anywhere.
you did.
So,
Like you did.
no,
Like
no.
you did. You went on and on and on.
I didn't interrupt you. So the point
You're
is simple.
interrupting me now.
So okay.
You're
So
doing it. You're doing it to me.
from what I'm
Practice
hearing
what
from
you preach, sir.
from what
Practice
I'm
what you preach.
from what I'm hearing from you, essentially you are saying Uthman wasn't either a caliph who had the power and authority to
Nasser, why are we talking to him?
implement what he wanted to get done.
I think we'll speak another time.
No,
Well, we're
but
gonna go now. Well, we're gonna
oh,
go
okay.
because I
So
don't
now,
think we've given
there
you
we go.
enough time.
So
You
what-
can give your conclusion.
You can
Fine.
give your conclusions. Thank you for your
conclusion-
time,
the
sir.
conclusion
I hope
is-
people realise
the-
you're being false to the
The
evidence.
conclusion
much.
is simply you are misrepresenting Islamic tradition. You are misrepresenting the fact that Uthman was a caliph and Hijazi was a region. Paul doesn't want to hear the truth. People at Speaker's Corner, Muslims at Speaker's Corner would like to see if Paul wants to hear the truth. The truth of the matter is, the hadith is clear in saying Uthman had ordered for the manuscripts to be burnt. All manuscripts to be burnt.
Qurans were burned.
All manuscripts to be burnt. Uthman had ordered. I'd like to think Uthman was willing. All right. So the problem, my dear friends, is this. Mingana 1572A, Birmingham manuscript, tells us a story which contradicts the traditional Islamic narrative and jeopardizes the entire historical value that Sahih al-Bukhari has to offer to reconstruct how Islam began. What we find is, according to Islamic sources, manuscripts from before the time of 652 AD are supposed to have been burnt. And what you are supposed to find after the time of 652 AD are only Uthmanic mushafs, standardized Uthmanic manuscripts. They were sent to different important cities, 5 or 6 cities that we know of from that time. Anything from before the time ought to have been burnt up. That was the order of the caliph of that time. Now, Paul and Naz were here trying to suggest that, maybe Uthman ordered, but people didn't really implement that order. Now, that jeopardizes Islamic tradition in a different way, because Islamic tradition tells us that the entire Hijazi area, the entire area of what we today known as the Arabian Peninsula, and even a bit more than that, was under the proper control of the Muslims. Everyone had become Muslim during that time. There was no rebel hiding. It was unprecedented. It was unchallenged power that Uthman had. The problem is, if Uthman orders and people did not implement his order, essentially we are talking about an Arabian Peninsula which wasn't in the nature that Paul Williams and Naz described. It's not just this, my dear friends. The narration on the Uthmanic recension that we find from Sahih al-Bukhari has multiple problems. Not just this. Unfortunately, of course, we were able to deal with only one today, but there are multiple problems in maybe, let's say, about 15 lines of text that we find in Hadith 4987 in Sahih al-Bukhari. Only one of them was being discussed today. Birmingham manuscript contradicts Islamic tradition. Sahih al-Bukhari is not Sahih anymore. It is da'if, incorrect, and we cannot use the Islamic sources to reconstruct Islamic history. Who was Muhammad? Was there even a person called Muhammad? What was the message he had?
Yes, there was
Did he even claim?
copied from Jews and Christians.
Well,
He copied.
did he even communicate anything and claim that he received some message from God? We simply
God
do not
communicates
know.
with me.
People who might be
God
following me for a
talks to
few
me.
weeks right now would know that I have been providing evidence after evidence which Christian brothers and sisters across the world in different parts have been bringing out. The early Islamic coins, the early Islamic inscriptions are against the history as suggested by the later Islamic traditions. Traditions that come from a couple of hundred years later. They are contradicted by evidence that predate them. Was there even a person called Muhammad? Did he have followers,
Muhammad,
successors?
And he copied from Jews and Christians. And
These
God
are
talks to me.
questionable
God
things.
talks to me.
All right,
God
sir, I'll come to you in a little bit,
reveals
sir.
to me.
So,
God
my
said,
dear Muslim friends,
Messiah will have a line on his forehead.
we are only
And
beginning
his
to
forehead-
demonstrate right
his
now
forehead
at Speaker's
will be
Corner here.
Slightly concave.
Other teams have been doing this for a while now, but
God
me
made it the
personally and my
sign of
team,
Messiah.
we are only beginning to demonstrate that the early period of Islam has been fabricated by later sources.
Correctamundo.
And therefore, you need to leave Islam. Flee Islam.
Islam is fabricated
Thankfully,
from Bible and Torah.
thankfully,
Islam is copied from Bible and Torah.
okay, we'll come to you in a bit, sir.
And Muslims
Thankfully,
lies,
thankfully,
Torah and Bible.
when I research my Christian sources, I don't find these issues at all.
And Jesus never wrote
The
one word of Bible.
Important,
Jesus never wrote one word of Bible.
The-
Moses never wrote one word of
the
Torah.
historical sources
Moses never wrote one word of
on
Torah.
Jesus Christ clearly establish or clearly place Jesus in the first century, in the period where Christian history claims he came from. The historical sources place Jesus Christ very precisely. The historical sources on Christianity, both written by Christians and non-Christians, clearly place the crucifixion of Jesus Christ as a clear historical source of event at the point when the Christians claim it happened. So my dear friends, the crux of Christian history is verifiable through early historical resources, both written by Christians and non-Christians. In complete contrast to Islam, Islam does not have legs to stand on. In contrast, Jesus Christ is arguably the most historical person ever. And the gospel of Jesus Christ, where there is forgiveness to sins based on what Jesus Christ did on the cross, is a solid truth that rests clearly in history, early history. And so leave Islam, come to the Lord Jesus Christ. Jesus has done something wonderful for you and for me. Even though we have disobeyed God and rebelled in all sorts of different ways, God incarnate Jesus Christ came down to die on the cross for you and for me, to pay the penalty of our disobedience, to redeem us and to make us children of God once more. A place which we lost because of our rebellion, we regain because of the grace of the God of the Bible, who is firmly historical in nature. Islam, on the other hand, is not. Leave Islam, come to Jesus Christ, be saved, get ready to get to heaven. No other way to heaven except for Jesus Christ. God's blessings to you all. Thank you.